Hi, thank you guys for joining already. On today's live, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce what the topic is about. Basically, we'll be going through industry topics with Shoni, who is, there we go, who is a art director in the industry. And we will be going through things you guys might not know about the industry. Sorry about that noise. Hi, Shoni.
Hello.
Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here. It feels productive. Productive. Doing something.
Yes. Um, it's great. So obviously, like I said, the live is gonna be about all the industry stuff that people might not know about. And one of the departments that other people also just generally doesn't don't know exists is the art department, right? Um, just general public doesn't really have an idea of the subsections that we have to make the film industry like what it is. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do? I'm coming, 1 second. You can start talking.
Happy day. Hi, everyone. My name is Shoni Musia. 30-something-year-old from Soweto originally. My career started in corporate. However, after a decade of working in insurance, namely your discovery, your outsurance, there was something that I felt that was missing. Didn't know
Yeah.
what it was. Fortunately for me, I found myself in a position where I surrounded myself with people, with creatives. And eventually at some point I raised my hand. I was like, hey guys, do you guys have something happening? Because what I'm doing right now is not happening for me. I'm not finding joy, you know?
Mm.
And that was the start, how I joined the film industry. Very, very, very entry level. I remember it was very informal. Someone that probably gave me a very good chance. Someone that I'm having a chat with right now took a chance on me. I started off as an art department coordinator. I
Mm.
did not know what that meant. And my career grew from strength to strength. I've been thoroughly enjoying what I've been doing. But going back to explaining what the art department is. So within the production department team, there are subsections. We are the guys that are probably the least praised because we handle quite a lot of stuff before everyone else comes in.
Mm.
So what an art director would do, explaining what I would do, it's that we provide a context for which the story to live in. So essentially, we read the script and then we design a world where that script would live in. So
Mm.
the little thing we are involved in is to ensuring that the viewer is able to place the story that we are telling in a certain place or time. So how we do that, we use time appropriate props, time appropriate set dressings. But then overall, the art direction department provides what is most important that people generally don't understand is the emotional tone that we create so that the story can live using things like your aesthetics. So when some people would watch a show and not realize why they're getting anxious, that's because we put quite a lot of red in that scene that you are seeing. So we are
Mm.
giving these are involuntary subconscious emotional cues that evoke a certain emotion out of you. So when you see someone having a coffee, it is intentionally placed there for them to have a coffee because it adds to a certain narrative on the story.
Mm.
So that's the overall basic element of what the art department does.
Yeah. So
Does it make sense?
I just want to say we do see the messages, right? Theory, hi. I will go through my emails. I've been inundated with a lot of emails. I see you there. As Shoni has mentioned, I do like giving new people a chance. But yeah, I'll get to the messages. So I also want to encourage you guys, if there are any questions that you have about the industry that you'd like Shoni and myself to answer, please do send them down there as questions and we'll get to them as the chat goes further. Yeah, so Shoni, as someone, like you said, as someone who was in corporate, a lot of people want to know how easy it is to get into like the industry. I personally say, in spaces like production, it's much easier if you are also coming from a corporate background, because all production is admin and organizing, right? Like making sure that things, obviously there are things that you need to know and certain ex- aspects of the industry that you learn while you're in, but it's, would you say it's fairly quick, like to learn the admin side of things, then therefore go forward and learn other things?
So my experience is slightly different because I went in and I fell in love with the department that I went into. However, I think very I would encourage someone who's interested in joining to just get your foot in. Noma can't be a makeup assistant or something because people generally don't know all the other roles, all the other departments that compromise or what we call a production team. So chances are someone might walk in as an art assistant, but while on set, they realize they've got an inclination towards the sound department. So the easiest way is maybe someone is currently a makeup artist, but they are not getting a foot in. But then someone says, you know what, we are building, I need assistance as an art person. It will be beneficial for that person to come in with me as my intern and then create connections within in the background, as opposed to saying, I want to be an actor. I'm only going to speak to casting people. I'm only going to speak to people who are looking for. You can want to be an actor, but come in using other avenues because it's easier to maneuver and move within the ranks once you're already in. If I was to decide to change departments now, it would be slightly easier for me because I'm already within. And it's slightly easier for me to learn other fields and departments as opposed to someone that is completely on the outside. So the perception that it is very hard to join the industry is it's a misconception because just get one foot in. I mean, I've been approached by people who are on set as background because they said to me, "Bra, I see that this is what you do." And so, the one time I actually met someone who actually went in and started picking up chairs. They didn't even say anything; they just saw us carrying things and they jumped in and helped. And I thought that was a very impressive way of showcasing themselves. And mind you, I've got them on my contact details. We've worked with them as a casual on recent jobs purely
Yeah.
because they saw an opportunity. They didn't wait. Actor. They found an in, use that in, and a lot of things you can learn within. A lot of things are teachable if you don't have the educational background. But get yourself and then grow within. That's all I can suggest.
Yeah. So I see Sia. I think it's Sia I. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name well. Thank you so much. You saying that's what you want to do. What are you referring to when you say that's what you want to do? Are you saying you want to come in as something and learn what field you want to be in? Yeah, but I agree with you so much, Cloney, because in our industry, sometimes even studying for it, it's great to study because then you come in knowing, right? But I say we are more of an experience-based industry, right? Um, when you know someone who is in the field and you ask them to come in, and they give you the chance to come in, you can grow to anything. Literally, there's directors who have never studied for the film arts, like they've learned on the job. There are gaffers, and a gaffer is such a technical job, right? But there's people who've done it without like prior, like having education prior to coming in. So I agree with you. It's about getting your foot in, and you're right. Actually, sometimes that means coming in as an extra, and while you're there on set, you look around, you see which department you like, you approach someone, or maybe go to the casting coordinator and be like, "Hey, I saw those people doing one, two, three. How do I join that? Like, but you have to find yourself in the space to be able to do that, as well as acting, because when you are, let's say, in the production office as an intern, you are aware of the characters that are coming up.
Yes.
Yes, you are then aware of the characters that are coming up, and you're like, oh, I think this one fits. And sometimes this does happen. We have prepped, we have had people that we you'll find that on the day there's a character missing because somebody didn't show up, or maybe we need a voiceover artist. Usually the people in production or someone in the crew usually says, I'll do it, and then like,
Yes. You
they
need to
end up
split
on
the scene.
screen.
Let's just
A lot of our
yes.
drivers on screen are actually crew members. Like if there's a taxi driver or a security guard on the script, it's usually crew guys. It's like that's a way
That is
in.
testament to just getting yourself in. And this is not only synonymous to the film industry. Say I wanted to be in the music industry, right?
Mm,
Um, I I wanted to be a DJ. What I would be doing, I'd be associating myself with the DJs that I kind of like. I'd be putting myself in events that those DJs are at, in music parties, and associating myself closer so that at the time when I'm able to come in and say, hey, bruh, I noticed that you are a DJ, and every time you come play a set, when you leave, there's no one helping you carry your equipment. You see, I've
yeah,
already just created in for myself without,
yeah,
and how people would grow in most departments. Because this idea of I'm gonna sit on social media and I'm gonna scroll, I'm gonna find someone who's gonna call me up and say, hey, I saw your TikTok, please come on set. It is possible, it does work. I'm not gonna discredit that, but most of the time that the pace that we work at does not allow most of the time for us to, like you're saying, you don't even have an opportunity to be looking at your emails. If tomorrow we need an urgent character on set, we will take whoever is closest. So
mm,
for anyone who wants to come in, align yourself with what you want to do. Put yourself close to what you want to do. You know,
yeah.
I think
Um,
that's quite important.
so I see that, see, I said I studied film and I'm trying to volunteer. My discipline is camera and operating. So I would say, Sia, like sometimes the camera crew is usually very cliquey on jobs, right? Like it's not always that you find because the entire camera crew is brought in by the DOP. A lot of people don't know this. The producer doesn't hire the camera crew. We hire the camera person, and yes, we have to be in agreement with who they are bringing in, but they choose who they're going to have on their team, down to like the gaffer, and you know, and that means you have to already know some. That's why we're saying it's better if you are asking to volunteer. I've always given the advice that if it is camera that you really want to do and you're not trying to get in any other way, because the best way to get way in really is to say you want to intern for production. And when you are there, if it's a good production, they'll always say, so what do you exactly want to do? And they plug you in. But if you're coming in already saying you want to direct and be part of the camera, then you would have to then find people in that space to try and give you an ear. And most of them in the industry are not those kind of people. We we really have like I wouldn't say ego, but like our DOPs are not the easiest people to approach. So I would say if you want to end up in that field, rather go in through production, through an internship through production, unless you know a DOP or a camera person somewhere and they already are willing to give you a chance. But try to just apply for an internship in anything in production. And when you're in, if it's a good production, they'll ask you, so where do you see yourself in the space? And they will try and plug you into that. I know most of my productions, that's what we do.
Maybe just to add on that,
Mm,
I still do this even though I've built a solid network. So most of the times I'll be watching something and it catches my eye and I'm like, oh my God, such a beautiful show. Who did that? At the end, I go and look at the credits. And then I go into their social medias because half the time they've got social medias. And
mm,
I start engaging with them on LinkedIn and social medias. I've spoken to art directors on international platforms, just to give them props on the works that they've done. And trust you me, once you've given someone props, they are going to go back to your profile and have a look at what you've done, and you've already created an impression. So
mm,
some of the things that someone who's looking to join, maybe have a look at the credits, look at who the DOPs that you enjoyed a show, and then look at who the camp department people are. Find them on socials, engage with them, and moving from that. And sometimes also it's even nice just to pitch your work. I mean, we live in an era where you can be creating work already on
mm,
socials and on TikTok, and the DOP picks your quality and they like it. That creates your own CV. That when he then comes onto your profile, he's like, "Oh my God, this person is artistic." Da 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 da. So
mm,
create a need for yourself, because I think the most frustrating thing that we've all experienced in the industry is that everywhere you go, as soon as someone finds out that you work in the industry, they tell you they want to be an actor. And then you ask them a follow-up question, what have you been doing before you met me? What have you been doing towards this dream of yours? And if they're not able to provide me with evidence, yeah, I'm part of this art group, I'm part of that, I'm part of this theater production, yasekasi, or whoopee whoopee, then it doesn't really motivate me because it looks like this interest just only became
an
alive to me
interest now.
because
Yeah.
so if you're able to prove to say, yes, I don't know what comprises of what a film. I mean, he says he studied, so he can be putting out clips of his work, so that when he
Mm,
then speaks to someone, he's able to exchange social media contacts, and whoever they're speaking to is able to reference back and see that. That makes you even more appealing as a potential candidate to be employed as an intern or something like that.
mm. And Duncan is saying, hi, can you recommend any agents that are taking in DOP camera operators? I don't know if they are taking in, but I could say the crew agents that we have, yes, crew has agents as well. And as much as actors have agents, crew have agents. There's crew cut. There's, what's that other one?
On a crew.
Color crew. But what you need to know about an agent is that they definitely do take a cut of your salary. I think it's from 10% to 25%. So, and you already get taxed 25% as a freelance crew in our country. So if that happens, that means only 50% of your salary is coming to you. I just want to put that disclaimer there that if you're going to get um, an agent,
Crew
then
fee.
you are looking at about 50% of your salary gone, not coming to you, and it's going to frustrate you. I will tell you, it is going to frustrate you because you're on set 12 hours. 12 hours is the standard, but like you end up being there 14 hours actually, if we're right, if we're speaking the truth, because you get there before breakfast, and that's an hour we don't count, and you offload your equipment, and that's still an hour we don't count. And then at the end, when we say it's a wrap, that's where we end counting. But you still need to pack up your equipment, put it in the car, drive the car to wherever the cars are being parked. So it's going to frustrate you to get an agent when you have where your money goes to them when you're working 14 hours a day every day with the conditions that we work in. Um, let's see. I see there's other questions here. Sunny says ground level up. Yes, that's always the best way. And also, the reason why I say ground level going up is always the best way is because on your way up, you're learning each and every role of your department while you are going up. So, for example, I always say I am grateful that I started as an intern, then I became a coordinator, then I became a PM before I became a line producer or producer. Because even before that, I used to work for a company called Bongwe TV. I wonder if Bongwe is still there. Like they will exploit you, but in that exploitation,
You will
you will
learn.
learn. Because at some point, I was carrying my own camera, I was digitizing my own footage and editing it myself and delivering the tape at SABC. But what that taught me is that you can't, as an editor, then tell me that you were rendering the whole night because I know render time, right? So going from the ground up always helps because you know what it takes to be at a certain level. And you then when you become lead for people, no one can shy you because you know exactly what goes into those processes. Let me see if
So
there are any. Yeah.
there is a question Sunny, that says, does your artistic process for set dressing come naturally, or you always go through a brainstorming process? Um, so for set dressing in particular, everything that we do, the first point is script. Script determines what we do. Yes, your artistic element is very important. There are little nuances, like I mentioned, there are little tricks that we do, which you learn. However, your script becomes your guiding light. Once you've broken down your script, you understand the world that we're living in, you understand the emotion that we are trying to portray, then the dressing of your set will be guided by that. I'll make an example. Your script says township, back rooms, or vibes. Obviously, someone might not have that experience, then you need to do some research to ensure. Remember, what we are trying to do is to to create a realistic space. So yes, you need to have a creative element. You're not going to copy and paste what you've seen everyone else does. You are going to want to infuse your own personality. So that's where the creative element comes in. However, the most important thing is that you do have a script that becomes your beacon, which guides you. You do also have brainstorms, which we call pre-production meetings, where we will sit with the directors and everyone else involved. Then they explain their vision. Based on that, you get notes. The director will give you some ideas of what they see the space to be. The DOP will tell you the lighting styles that they will need, how they're going to be shooting. So that gives you an element of direction as well. So script breakdown, key. Your creativity is the last part. So your flair will show off. Once you've got your set, then you show off with little nuances. Like you see, I've got blue on blue, so that's a little, those little touches that you wouldn't find. So that's where you play.
Yeah.
I hope that answers.
So another thing that I want us to discuss, ne, are the like the eeks of the industry. I feel like the film and TV space are always glamorized, right? So everyone from the outside is always seeing just the glamour of the industry. No one ever knows like the things that truly go on behind the scenes. So without almost being blacklisted, can we can we discuss some of the things? And I just want to, before we get to that, the revolution projects, I want to say thank you for for answering Duckus. Yes, there is Cine Connect crew cut as well that take DOPs. Yeah.
And just a
So let's,
sidebar, the person who was asking to become a DOP, they need to connect with the Revolution Project. They are
yes,
working on some stuff that you could learn. That could be your in if you really connect with them. Sidebar.
great. Thank you for joining. Yeah.
So
So what are your eeks, babe?
that people don't talk about outside
Yeah.
of the award ceremonies and all the glitz and glamour that we see on television. I think for
Yes.
me, we have already touched on a few. Is that I call it the tip of the iceberg thing. What the viewer sees is just this tip. However, there's so much that's happening underneath that
Underneath.
iceberg.
Mm.
So that's where the crazy is at. So imagine if you were planning a wedding and you had one bridezilla, right? Now, in this instance, you've got 200 bridezillas because everyone within the production team, one is a creative. Everyone has got their own opinion. We all read the same script, but everyone has interpreted it in their own fashion. Getting all of these creatives to funnel out an idea which ends up becoming a 24-minute episode on television is a monster. Adding the fact that you are given 100 rands to split among 20 people to ensure that everyone is happy. So there's a lot of, it's stressful in a sense that the pre-production as well as the filming process until we wrap the show, the entire time is stress time. Only purely because it's long hours. It's a room full of creatives. Finding a good communication strategy on how to raise your ideas and put them forward without discarding other people's ideas. Finding that balance is stressful in its own. People fight, people shout, and then over and above the long hours. So you are going to be, from the beginning of the project, working exceptionally long hours. And we work in an industry where everything is not cast in stone. We might be wrapped today. Let's say today we are finished wrap, we are doing this. An email could easily come in now telling us that the rest of the next few days have changed because the cast member has gotten ill, they are not available. So whatever you have planned means that now we are starting afresh. So that means my day is not, I have not finished my day. So it's a 24-hour cycle. The changes are so often and so quick. So you need to be able to adapt. So that's one of the most pressing things that it's not like knocking off at 5 and you're like, oh, I'm off my desk, my headset is off, I'm home. If the building bends down, I'll see it tomorrow. You are constantly on call.
Mm.
If you, it's tiresome, and we are creatives. Kunamadiva, kunayonke into and all of that, you know. So you are gonna find a mix of personalities. So if you don't have that ability to understand and resolve conflicts quickly and get over it, because sometimes the director is gonna shout at you, not because you messed up, because they're under pressure and you're not working to their pace. It doesn't necessarily make it personal. So quickly being the ability to quickly get over negative hiccups is also something that one needs to be ready for. It's not going to be all. There's a lot of screaming that happens behind the scenes, which people don't know. People walk off sets, and all of that drama, the little challenges that you would find, as well as maybe for someone that's coming in wanting to learn. It's a lot. You get the information is an overload. It can be overwhelming because there is not enough time to sit you down and say, this is how it's always just hang on to my waistcoat and run with me. So the process of learning can be a bit overwhelming because it's a lot, because people are
Mm.
trying to meet targets, want to sit you down and cuddle. You have to grab on and run with it. So those are the few things that I think would differ from other industries. The stress levels. You just know that the stress levels, you can plan as much as you want, but your plan is never going to be perfect.
Yeah. And then Usani has asked, how big of a role does an art coordinator play in the art department, and what um, qualities does
Quality.
one need to have?
Okay, there is an art department coordinator in the comments there. I don't know why they are not answering. But the art department coordinator essentially is the art director's right hand person. Um, they are the person that literally run the art department, because they ensure that all the documentation, all the communications channels are followed, or every how do I put it? I think the coordinator's responsibility is it's the glue that holds the art department together. So
Mm.
if there's anything that needs to a communication that comes from production or a director, or things have changed, or writers, it is the coordinator that ensures that everyone else, that information is filtered within the entire team. And as an art department coordinator, you need to wear all of the hats. So if a standby is needing of help, the art department coordinator will jump in, assist that. If the props master needs something else to be sourced, the art coordinator will always be filling in those gaps. The skills require I think we can learn everything, but the most important thing is your ability to communicate within the whole structure, filtering down the information, and planning. You need to, we, everyone in your department is probably running around shopping for things. They won't be able to read and see changes. So you need to be able to communicate those changes to the entire team. So essentially, skeleton. Art department coordinator is the skeleton that holds the whole thing together.
Yeah, you're like the broadcaster, because while they are out, anything that changes within production, you hear it first, and you have to filter it down to the team. And if there's anything that the team needs, you have to take it to production. So, and also you must be very quick in your turnaround of how you do things in communication and breakdown. Because if, like Hloni said, anything changes for the next day, you need to be ahead of your team with organizing whatever the changes that have happened. You need to be fixing that ahead of your team while you are in comms, obviously, with your art director. Jabs, I think this is more of a me question, is asking, how does one secure distribution in pre-prod, especially as an aspiring filmmaker? I've got a sub question to that, Njabulo. First of all, how are you in pre-production? Have you secured funding? Who have you secured funding with? And do those people not have distribution channels? For example, the reason I'm asking that is, if you have done it with the NFVF, they usually already have sort of a distribution plan that you need to submit to them, or they also give it to you. And number two, usually you need to know, like, which festivals, especially if it's a film, which festivals it's gonna run in, and you need to apply for the distribution funding from NFVF. I'm just using NFVF as an example, but if you're in pre-prod for a channel like Zanzi, MultiChoice, Mnet, or SAPC, usually distribution is not your problem. You don't even have it on your budget, because that is already run and handled by the channel itself. So I would need to know more information in order to be able to advise properly on that. Um, but also, let me just plug. I also have a book, an ebook, which covers these topics. Budget. It covers budget. It covers pitching. It covers your pitch deck, and it covers your distribution. So if you can just hop on over to my bio, you can find the information you need there as well. And then Dineo, I'm going to move on to the next question. It says, hey, where does someone with an acting qualification apply apart from agencies in order to work? So Dineo, Skat, we have just gone through how you have to be in close proximity of where you want to be, right? So apply to be an intern in a production. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will get an acting gig, but it means while you are in there, if a role does come up, you might be able to scoop that role up because you are in close proximity. And also, in my previous lives with Crispin and with John, who is a casting director, we did discuss how important it is to have an agent for numerous reasons. So it's not easy to find a job, especially in South Africa, without an agent, because the minute the concept is approved by Channel as a producer, what you are doing is you are taking out briefs, and those briefs are being taken by the casting director that you have hired, and they are being sent to the the casting agents. So it's really hard. We hardly ever have open castings. We do it once in a while, like your Mandla Ends will do it, or someone, or if it's a story that we want to have traction before it even starts, then we'll do things like open castings. But usually, rarely ever do we do open castings. So an agent is quite essential, especially if you want to be an act. Okay, the questions are coming in. Miss Andile says, Lol Sislindi gave me my first opportunity as a coordinator. Forever grateful. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Andile. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Still raising funds through crowdfunding. Oh, I was thinking of securing, that's in Jabulo. I was thinking of securing distribution. Could you help with private investment or product placement? So where product placement, things like product placement are always dependent on where your thing is going to land. Before you even get product placement, you have to have a letter of intent from a distributor to say this thing is going to land here, and we're anticipating this much volume in terms of the viewers that you are going to get. Because as an advertiser, what I want to know is if I put my product and my money in your project, how many people am I advertising to? But yeah, those things are so layered. Usisihle, I think, who is more Kavile about this. I've asked her to do a live with me. She's agreed. We'll get into that on that live. But you can DM me, Njabs. We can take it from there. We were still talking about X, and the questions keep coming in. So how do you get?
Interesting questions.
Yeah.
Which I like the questions as well.
Yes. So I think maybe you can try and answer this one for us. Usisa is saying, how do you get new faces as agents send the same people most of the time? Do you have an idea about this, or you wanna
Top of head, ne?
yeah?
based on the pace that we have on the industry when we're shooting, we'd rather work with someone that's reliable, that we know is gonna get there and deliver. I'm not saying that CISA is not gonna deliver,
Yeah.
but if you've delivered, it's easier for the next supplier to call you because they've seen your delivery process. Um, and I like the concept that you keep seeing the very same new faces. Hey, it doesn't sit well with me because they must work, they must eat. We work in the South African context where doing one show is not enough bag to secure you for life. You're not doing a Charlize Theron, you're not doing a Will Smith vibe where you can do one big film and then you are covered for the next 4 years. In the South African context, someone needs to wake up every day. Wiseman needs to do everything and allow Wiseman because Wiseman delivers. But the pie is big enough for everyone. Just remember the fact that the pie is big enough for everyone to share in it. Seeing the same person means that their hustle game is on and it should be motivation as opposed to you saying, yeah, but it just means that they keep hustling and learn from their hustle because now you're gonna get on a show and best believe you're gonna want to be on the next show and the next show because bills never stop.
Yeah.
I don't know if yeah.
And I agree. Just to add on that, right? Like I said, on the previous lives, we've discussed how the the channel, which usually most of the time are the people who choose the cast that ends up on the show. It's not even as a producer, all you can do is suggest who you think can play the role best. But at the end of the day, the channel decides who is going to get the role, and based on whatever marketing strategy they have. And one thing I've always said is that, in as much as this looks glamorous and beautiful, it's still a business. It still needs to be lucrative. It still needs to bring in a profit. And you know who pulls in the numbers, right? And that's how we end up seeing the same faces because they know this person has this much following. And I don't just mean social media following, they have a pool. And for example, Tembinkosi has a pool. Everybody knows that
Yes.
Mthembi has a pool. So depending on what I want to achieve and me being channel, what I want to achieve with the show, I'm gonna put Tembinkosi forefront because I'm trying to attract not only subscribers, people who are going to pay for the subscription, but number two, advertisers who are going to come and pour money into this business as well. So that's how you end up seeing the same faces. But I want to say, as somebody who has who's been involved in production from the beginning, like from the development stage, where you also pick the face options for auditions. I know that agents do try, and I'll speak for them in this regard, they do try to send in as many new faces, and we do audition as many new faces as possible, especially for sub roles. But trust me when I say a lead role, unless the story is really trying to come in banging, and the pool, like Gomorrah, the pool was that it's new faces and all of that. Unless it's that, we are going to want the lead roles are always going to end up with people who are already established. That's why I'm saying, even with acting, you have to come from the ground up. You don't just get a lead role with one audition. You have to be okay with doing a bit part, a cameo, and then going up to being a support lead. And then from support, you end up getting lead roles. Hardly ever do people just land on a lead role. That's just been my experience, and I've never seen anyone just come up from nowhere and become lead unless they were lead in an indie film that did well in the festival runs and somebody from Hollywood is talking about them, so South Africa takes notice. Otherwise, usually you have to allow the come up, and that means you will get the roles that are not frequently on screen, but you could get it. Maybe the show is now on episode 15, and that's only when you are entering, and that's good. Build on that. Um,
And it's also important to come up with it, because as we've spoken about the not so glamorous element of what happens, the lead is responsible for so much. I don't think anyone that has never been on a film set can take on that amount of responsibility.
yeah,
I
but
don't think people understand that we can give a lead role 6 scenes in a day, and it's your wife just got married, you have to cry, the next scene you are happy, the next thing you are in a fight, and that emotional roller coaster, it's
you
something
have to
that
have
the
experience for it.
you need to come up to be able to, because literally I swing a set and they go out crying because they just shot a funeral scene, and the following scene it's a birthday party. So
They are happy.
yes.
Mm.
So you need, and the time, the hours as well, because people. I remember speaking to my younger brother. He had a misconception that it's just there's always a three take, wide, close up, and I was like, you do realize that one take can take 10, 15, 20 times until you get that. So a single scene could last an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Mm.
so that the drain. So you need to have an experience before you really carry an entire show on your shoulders. You wouldn't want to set yourself up for failure wanting to be a lead without experience.
Yeah. and and this guy is not even a lead, but you know that trending video of the Generations guy there? I
I haven't
can't take
seen
this
it.
anymore. Why is everyone treating my mom so bad? Do you know that?
No, I haven't seen it.
You don't want to
I'll
end up
Google
there.
I'll Google
Just for fun says, do you think taking a diploma in motion pictures at TUT is a good idea? Yes. I think
any school is
any 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 institution that offers film and TV usually sometimes also has a way of getting their students into platforms, right? Like maybe TUT will write to a production company and say, we have this many students graduating this year. Can you take them in as interns and all of that? I think it is a good idea as long as you keep your ear on the ground and you don't just think a diploma is what's going to get you in. Um, you have to also put
yeah,
yourself
but
in the spaces
I
that,
saw a question if location is which one is better, location shoot or studio? And I see that Arno has already voiced out his opinion saying that he prefers location. I too prefer location over studio.
why?
Um, for the key reason is the lighting. Location, any actual light is beautiful light. And studio gets you so confined, it doesn't push you. It's a good space. You can get so much done in a studio. We can pre-light, our sets are all here. There's never so much drama. But when you get out of your comfort zone, I think that's where magic happens. So location shoots give me the most fun, though tiresome because locations might be far from one another. There's a lot of
Mm.
driving that happens. Um, the logistics can be annoying, but if you are invested in what you will produce at the end, picture quality, location is always better than studio for me.
So I've got obviously a different take because from my perspective where budget is concerned. I agree with Shoni in terms of what looks beautiful on screen is always going to be a live location shoot, where you go into someone's house and the nuances are already there. If we're saying forum ya Soweto, already you're finding something that's dressed for a forum ya Soweto. You don't have to imagine too much, and it looks nice, like you said. The lighting always looks nice. But for me, from the studio perspective, if we're not taking aesthetics into consideration, there is a lot that benefits a production. So, as a producer, there's a lot that benefits a production by going into studio. First of all, the elements don't come against you. Like whether it's raining, it's snowing, or whatever you shoot, you if anything happens to an actor, you are able to quickly turn around and go into the different set that you already have, that you don't have to call someone and see if it's available. Like there are a lot of variables that save money when you are doing it in studio. Of course, now we're getting better with like our I'd like to think so. I'd like to think the Quebeca set was gorgeous, and a lot of people didn't see that it was studio at some point because we're getting so much better. And shout out to Nomonde, the production designer of that studio. Yes, Nomonde game. It we're able to now create spaces that give a feel of an outside space instead of it feeling like heavy lighting. And also I feel like props to our technical teams, they're getting very creative with lighting and how to do things to make it feel like, oh, you are actually in a house when you are in a studio. So we no longer just have like overhanging lights that just bleed out the entire set. So I prefer studio for monetary reasons. It's cheaper to be in studio. It's if the studio is already there. But to build a studio is a whole nother ball game that is.
Is less stressful even for my department because if my props room is here and all my props are here, if there's a change, they just walk into the props room. You know,
Exactly. It makes it
but
easier for all of us. We just, yeah.
on the fun part element of it, I did work. I did spend a sizable amount of time working into when I was with Imbeu. So I remember how excited it felt like we were going on a field trip every time we had to go shoot outside on
Yes.
a location.
Same for
However,
Pomora.
yes, I can assure you that the amount of work we got done in a day. When I left studio and I got to location, I was shocked when I saw like 16, 7 scenes a day. We used to bang 17, 15, 20 scenes a day in the studio.
In studio. It gets you a lot of pages a shot. And I am sure that doesn't translate to somebody who doesn't know film, but pages is literally what we live for. How many pages we shoot a day. And that's the pages of the script. Vuyo says we miss Sariti telenovelas. Are we going to get one? Probably. I don't know. I'm not with Sariti currently. Um, and to say, Sunny saying taking hours in labor. Does this affect the art department in any way, or it varies for every production? Talking hours.
I think I understand. For our
Okay.
department, 12 hours. We work for as long as we need to work. For as long as they need to shoot, we need to work. So
And fun fact, the two departments that don't get overtime in production are art department and production. And those are the and and it's like that because producers already know that these two departments don't get an off time. You are on call 24/7. Because when you leave 14 hours later on set, you're still going to get home, break down for the next day, prep for the next day, and you're back there with unit at 5:30 when the rest of the team is getting there at 7. Like, yeah,
there's
the
no
hours.
time. No, all productions, it doesn't matter even if they say you're working Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday, you are sourcing your props for the next week. Trust, best believe. The Sunday you are doing breakdowns, you are speaking to your guys. We are trying to always stay ahead because we are aware of the changes that happen that we may not have control over. So instead of giving excuses and say, oh, we didn't have it because we didn't know it was going to change, rather put in that little extra amount of work and get it ready. However, we'll also um, mention that there are pockets in these 16 hours where we do take little breaks. You know, where as a set dress, once you've handed over the set, they are filming, you are walking away. You can get a little break in between the day while you're preparing for one. It's not like in these 16 hours you are on your feet 16 hours. Okay, stand by something else. Prop master, if you work very smart, you know your schedule for the next 2 weeks. As a prop master, they can get their props in 4 or 5 days for the next 2 weeks. They are chilled. They can get a breather and prep more. So yes, it does sound like we never it's go 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 go, but if you do your things, you plan carefully, you are able to still little moments of musa when you're not needed on set. As long as they are filming, they are shooting, the camera is up. We are either focusing on the next sets that are not ready, or we are planning. But then you are not. It's not a run, run, run. You are not on a hamster wheel. So it should not deter you to join that department thinking you're going to be worked like a slave. No, there is a balance.
Yeah, and Sunny says, I'm sure the rate goes with the hours. Not all the time. Not all the time. It's that's another misconception about the industry, right? I know my videos that blew up were the videos where we were discussing rates, and it sounds
Yes.
like exorbitant amounts when I am saying it like that without context. But the context here is that everyone working in this industry is a freelancer. And what that means is that you are not permanently employed anyway. You go where you are called. And sometimes, even if, let's say, you are earning, you're on a project, let's say we are shooting Mpini as we were shooting, and you're earning 50,000 a month for 7 months. When Mpini finishes, there's a potential of you not getting another job for another 4 months. So that's 7 months of 50K per month, however way you live your life. You need to also project and save for the 4 months that you might not have a job. So it really is, yeah, the rates are not great. The one thing about our industry that is also an ick for me, which what icks me the most is that it seems like I'm the one who sets the rates.
Facts. Because
Because
you are the one who has to deliver the rates to me. So
I
I'm
have to
looking
give
at
you the
it like,
rates, and everybody's
I
looking at Lindy. We're like, yo,
know.
Lindy, stingy. Yo,
Yes.
that time, Lindiwe is following a template, a budget template from Channel, and there's nothing you can do. And you must remember, one has to have a contingency. So even if I have 20,000 on the line, if I give you all that 20,000 on the line for the rest of the month, if anything happens and we have to go an extra month, I've shot the production on the foot because now there is nothing um, to protect the production and your job actually from this unforeseen circumstance. So yes, I it's also a ask from me to the powers that be that we need to look at our rates. In fact, they are deteriorating. Rates were great like 10 years back, like 7 years back. Now we are stuck on rates that were a 7 years ago kind of thing, right? Like we're still on rates that were 2016 rates in 2025 with cereals economy and inflation with a Trump that's just throwing things
Yeah.
left, right, and center. Uh, yeah, go wild. So rates are really a thing in the industry. And if I
25%
should
tax.
clarify one of the things is that even as a producer, even as a line producer, there's not much you can do. Yes, there are people who rip other people off like live, but there are
Yeah.
people who genuinely want to pay you your worth, but the budgets that get approved by channel are just something else. Yeah.
No, the race conversation is touchy.
Bonga Zulu is saying, hi, your new follower, thank you. Are you recording this live? I want to watch later. Every live records, it's whether or not we post the snippets of it. It doesn't post as one long live, but it posts like clips from the live. So I don't know. Maybe maybe I'll download and put it on YouTube. Link is in the bio for the YouTube, by the way. The raid convo is triggering your Spare. If you would so join us. Spare is another producer, writer in the industry. If she can join us just to elaborate more or give us her experience, that would be lovely. Let me invite you, if you don't mind, Spare. Yeah, so we were still talking about the X, right? And I never went into my X. I think my biggest ick in the industry is that not everybody knows, even the people in the industry. I implore everyone who wants to get in that please come in with an open mind to learn. I think people join the industry and they just focus, they zoom in on whatever they're zooming in, whether it be camera or acting or whatever, and they don't know the full process of production. And that hurts the show because people then act out not knowing the full process of production. My biggest ick in the industry is having 70 crew members that you are working with daily, all making it about themselves in their department and not factoring in that there are so many other moving parts. Like when they say production is the engine of the show, really it's because you are sending and filtering everything out to everyone and everything comes back to you. So when people make, my biggest ick about the industry is how selfish everybody has gotten. And I understand it's because also back to the rate thing, people are not getting what they ask for when they go into a job, and therefore they start acting out in many ways. But I just want to implore people who want to come into the industry that please approach it differently. Like have a different take on how you should behave when you're on set. We did also talk about set etiquette with the casting team that I had a live with. What would you say, Shoni, like is the appropriate set etiquette for a crew member?
The biggest, I'll use my example. The biggest thing that you must just always be cognizant of is that everyone is under pressure. It's not just you. Everyone, we are all trying to ensure that whatever department that I'm looking after runs seamlessly so that it does not become a blockage in ensuring that what we are trying to achieve for the rest of the day. We're not the guys that made us not finish the day. So if everyone looks at their department in that way, that it is a collaborative element, and it is a give and take on set. There are situations where I've had to say, okay, I'll let camp department win on this one because it's important to them. And there are situations where I've said, no, this is very important to my vision and my view. I'll fight the good fight for it. But the most important thing that one needs to remember is that the goal is the viewer. Whatever you are doing, we are doing it for the viewer. We are going to fight. We are going to have difference of opinions. However, as long as you're under pressure, it's not just you who's under pressure. So
Yeah.
understand your behavior should stem from the fact that Everyone else is under pressure, and everyone else is trying to make the most amazing, beautiful product that they'll put out there for the viewer. So respect everyone accordingly. You never know who's going to give you a next job. I'll teach people that because I've gotten
Yeah.
jobs. People who were on set that were not in my department, but because of the
Thank
way
you, Bonga.
I looked at it myself, someone from the camp department said, "Oh, I know this guy," and just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Spare, what are your hot takes?
Hi guys.
Hi,
So
Spare. Welcome.
literally,
It's like
I
hijacker.
skimmed through the TikTok. I caught the tail end, and that's why I hopped on to hear more because I'm very curious.
Yeah.
More than anything, before I say anything, I'm gonna let you guys lead with your conversation. But I'm just like kudos to you for setting up a platform like this because there's a lot of information that isn't trickling down to the layman. And it's like these that will give people context outside of the fantasy, right? Because we all have the bright lights, Joveki, Watwati, films, Saftazi, Umanati, but you don't understand the moving bits of this entire machine and the implications of that. So what you're doing is such important work. So shout out. I'm gonna mute myself and I'll hop on if I have something else to say.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Spare. Shoni, Sunny had a question and said, what happens if you go over budget, whether it's props or action vehicles or just set related? I'm laughing because we've had so many fights about this one in particular, but yeah.
And it's very recent. That's a young trigger because this. So, like I said, at the end of the day, there is always an element of compromise. We just need to come up with creative solutions. The aim is to never go over budget because then that means you are not, Mina and my coordinator, we are not sitting looking at things closely. But if stuff does happen, we do. However, what we would then do is to sit down and say, okay, because the storyline has gone so much into our action vehicles because the writers keep writing everything in a car. They're always in a car having a conversation. So our action vehicle budget that we have projected for, we are digging deep into that. Then we find other spaces within the budget that we can then funnel to ensure to the action vehicle. For an example, chances are we have so much action vehicle, but we don't have a lot of stunts that are happening. We don't have a lot of SFX. So we'll take some of that and bring it all over onto this category to ensure that it all balances out. But the aim is to never to try and push not to go over budget because the sad part is if you do go over budget, there is nowhere else where the money must come from. That's the conversation that I'm gonna have with Lindy and says, Aiko, where must I pull it out from?
That time ngibovu angeneki ngiso.
Aye. So we must find pathways and compromise here, compromise there, while maintaining the quality and the aesthetic that we're going for. Move things around, be creative. I think we did ask earlier on if creativity is important. I think that's where your creativity is gonna shine, where you are able to take 5 rand and make it look like a 5 million rand studio set.
That's
So,
true. Hi, Judy. Hey. Hi, Sunflower. And the one thing that you guys need to know is that writers will write. And abusiphe bazokubhalela.
Not me.
I'm a
I'm a
creative
writer's worst
producer
nightmare.
who will write. They will write, Matty.
Yeah.
And then you saw the plane coming down. And then he walks off, the plane blows up. And you're like, with
And
what
that's
budget?
and that's precisely why things like development that are slept on are where the real cooking happens, right? Because if I am now repositioning myself and saying I'm going to be a development exec, for instance, and I am overseeing or contributing towards the writing process. The fact is, majority of writers have never stepped onto a set. They do not know this machine that we deal with. So bona babuka i-Netflix, babuka i-HBO, babuka ama-Emmys nama-Oscars, bathi I wanna be the next Tarantino and ngizobhala into yazini. Fucked up. And they don't
Experiencing.
realize that killing the character by driving off the Ferrari off a cliff or just popping a pill in their drink gives you the same outcome.
I mean,
Do you understand? So
please.
that is why, again, I will say the industry right now, as it is, unfortunately, does not really pay attention or cater to the importance of development. You'll be given there'll be a call out or whatever it is, you'll get commissioned for a thing, and turnaround time for those stories to come out is so unrealistic, or even on the writers, because you're supposed to churn out those scripts so we can start shooting and it needs to TX by this time. But the time of the writing, even the concept building before the writing, the development is so important because that's where you could then come in and nip it in the bud, like kill those babies or just mitigate the fantasy and show realities. And outside of that, it's also the unfortunate fact you would see when you speak about crews and the disparities about not being paid enough and all of that is abantu abaningi esisebenza nabo don't bafike bangena ngendlela abangene ngayo and you came in and wena wazi ukuthi Friday iyaclock, right? And they don't really have an informed understanding of what this thing that they are serving really is, where it starts, what it is, and where it's going. Bona, it's that bottom line, and I don't blame them because it's span is span. Unlike other industries where if you're getting into any form of medicine, Ines knows how to complement the hotel. The bookkeeper knows how to complement the accountant because they understand the entire mechanism of that industry. Unfortunately for us, and especially crew members, we don't really have that knowledge enough to understand ukuthi ulindi makathi he ela hayi ngoba uncisha imali. It's because makavuma mina something else further ahead izolimala, and this thing that we are all collectively coming to do is not going to come out and it's not going to happen, which means angeke usaba nomunye umsebenzi because ulinda angeke sangifonela because naye uzobe ehleli phansi yabo. So it's there's a ripple effect, and I think information and education is so important, and that is why I'm saying kudos to you for this, because you're literally creating a platform where you're painting the entire picture, not just a pocket of it that Nina I know of. So
And I
so
don't
yeah.
know if you can help. The Revolution project earlier on did ask about distribution channels. Do you have any how on that? Somebody asked, I think it was the Revolution or someone asked Unjabs, I think it was Unjabs, who asked Uguti if they are in pre-prod, what distribution channels should they be looking for? If it's a film, I'm assuming it's an indie film, and they're using a fund, a grow fund, as their exec,
Okay.
I guess.
I'm not well versed on that, but I do know that indigenous film and distribution would be the best place to knock and get the attention of. There's about AAA that
Triple
also
A as
covers
well.
national territories. So even something as quick as saying, sending an email and saying, "Hi, I'm so and so. Can I please just have 10 minutes of your time so you school me on this thing?" If they aren't able to service you directly, they may at least redirect you on towards the right path.
And guys, I keep reiterating this on every live. It's very important to watch the end credits of the show, because that's how you know who's who in the industry, and you can therefore. I'm talking to the people who are trying to get the foot in and trying to see. You can see who worked on what project and what their role was on the project, and you align yourself with that. You can then take the name, search it on LinkedIn, find them on LinkedIn, try and connect, because to say there is no, in our industry, there's a few things we don't have. We don't have a union, we don't have a regulating body, and we don't have channels of this is how you get in. Certain corporate jobs, if you want umsebenzi absa, this is the portal. If you want umsebenzi kuphi, this is the portal. In our industry, it depends. I would even say it's luck at this point also, because it depends who you know. It's very important who you know, who you are pestering, number two. Because
Heavy on the
many a
pistol.
times I've given people opportunities because they were just not off my Instagram DMs or something, and I was like, okay, let me give you a chance. And if I give you a chance and you do well on that chance, you go on to the next chance again with me. Yeah, understand. Yes, you can go to school, and there are programs like that Magic Factory that can get you in, but even there, it's like gambling. It's the lottery. They don't take everyone. So it's very important for you to give yourself an advantage by doing things like that. It's just go on LinkedIn and find these people and send them messages on LinkedIn, or find the email them your CV. Try. We can only help so much. I also, my DMs, I can only pay attention to so much, like, especially after posting the series that I had posted about industry rates and some of the information. You can only imagine how inundated I am with messages and emails from people who are trying to come in. So I am going to obviously gloss over some of those, but do watch the credits. Do follow production companies on social media. Do try to follow things like the Revolution Project, your Actor Spaces, platforms like that give you an in into the industry, and try to connect with those people. That is honestly my best advice on how to get your foot in.
Yeah, I mean, the long and short of that is effort, right? It's
Yeah.
effort and positioning. Where kulula ukuthi ish ngicela ungifaka, right? But then again, as much as we don't have a regulated industry, and it's not like you can go to a law firm and say ngicela ungifaka, because we are professional at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The effort that goes into it is important. You mentioned these entities that they could pour effort into, but it's also just being a honey badger about the content that you're consuming. If you pick about Showmax, you pick about DSTV, about Netflix, who are the people that are making those things? You're right to speak about in credits. And studying these things, put in the effort. Like, it's almost like uzivulela i-course yakho of isikolo sakho to be able to figure out how to align yourself, because there's a difference between somebody who comes to me and says ish siphethe awungifaka, and somebody who says, listen, so I've been reading a lot on ABC, and I've been following the trends of this. That person outright shows me what they are willing to put in the work. You are attractive immediately to me. Like, okay, when are you coming with something different?
Absolutely. That's what Hloni said earlier on, that you have to show something where you're part of a group project somewhere, a lokshini, maybe like a theater arts
Yes.
something, a lokshini or something, like you can't just show up because I am this person and you say I want to come in. What have you done to show that you want to be a part of this? I last time made an example about Tashnika because I love that guy so much. Amaskitka Tashnika, do you guys know it? If you don't, I'm plugging you. This this guy, the angles of his content, like, just, it absolutely blows my mind that somebody who has no background in film was able to achieve that. And if Tashnika ever says, "Hey, I'm more than willing to take him seriously," because what do you mean? You know? Yeah. So it's really, really, really important, guys, for you guys to do that. You can't just be here and just say, "Oh, I want to," you know. I think we can both answer this one's pay. It says, how does one get a producer to back their script? Does it have to be 100% complete? Who? What do you mean by back?
Clarity, please.
Yeah. But if it's what I think it is, which is support your script, I guess.
But in what context though? When you say
Yeah.
support, ufike kanjani, sitholane kanjani? Because this thing of also please don't do blind sending of your ideas and intellectual properties to people. One, without educating yourself about protecting your idea, about at least have the conversation first. Or bashele labo bantu bafunayo, or people that you've already ironed out. Okay, I know that this person does this person does that. Try and get that initial chat to say NDAs, things like that, before you can't just.
Yes.
And then
And
next thing you're gonna be crying, jiggly when you see your idea that I have now repackaged into and named it something else there on TV, and then you want me to trend on Twitter. Chief, please protect your
I said
idea.
this. I said most producers
laughing
do
because
not take unsolicited.
You
Sorry,
can't.
Tony.
I'm laughing because remember I sent you the same email a while back and I said, "Oh, I just came
What
up
did
with
I
this
say
idea."
to you? What did I say to
I'm not
you?
even gonna read the email.
I'm
gonna
not going
delete
to
this.
read it.
But this is the correct channel that you need to follow. Here's the
Yes.
channel. Good luck.
And you
Yes.
were lucky to find somebody like Ulindi who has the moral compass enough to say, hey, come
I'm not going
correct.
to read it. And I said, even like big producers like your Cheta, your Siriti, people I've worked with and I've worked for, and I know will not even look at your email. Nobody takes unsolicited proposals these days because of that very thing that Uspe was saying. Uguti, you're gonna end up on Twitter because ideas, I've always said this, crossover. You might have sent me something that we were already in the works for, and now you're going to say, they took
Stole
my
your idea.
idea, they sidelined me, they changed a few things, and now I'm not working on it, and they're making money on my idea. So never, 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 never send a person without even, never send a person your idea without first establishing whether or not they want to be a part of that creative process with you. And most of the time, like I say, you are better off going into the channel portals and submitting your idea there than
Yes.
going to a producer to try, because the producers also most of the time in our context, in our industry context, don't have the power to bring it to life. A channel has to back it, so rather go straight to channel. If channel really likes it, they will take it and say, okay, we're going to give you a supervising producer who's got more experience than you, and then that's how you get in. I hope we've answered you somehow, Sbo.
And then also just for like the indie filmmakers, I mean, there institutions like your film commissions are there for that purpose. Right now, there was a circuit that was going on, development funding with the NFVF. It closed today at 5
NFVF,
p.m.
guys.
And it's going to go through the adjudication process, and people are going to get a certain amount of money to be able to develop their ideas into a script that you can then shoot. And after that process, you then reapply for production funding, and there's a certain amount of money allocated towards that. And imali, that's there. So if your idea is as good as you say it is and you think it is, then put it to the test and put it up in those things. There are professionals there that are sitting in a panel that will either validate or give you feedback to say, do better. You missed this mark and this mark and this mark. And also this thing, you're of wanting to produce and wanting to create it's not a get rich quick. It's not an overnight thing. An idea can live for 5, 6, 10 years before we even see it on screen. And the thing that you thought you started with looks completely different at
Different.
the end of that process. So allow the idea, if you really believe in it and you think it's worth creating, allow it to show you where it needs to go, but you need to meet it with that effort. And the other mistake that people make is you can't just approach a producer and say, listen, I've got an idea. Have you done the due diligence and the background check of what kind of content these people produce? Is it in line with the type of story that I want to churn out? And if it's not, then like again, it's the effort, it's the homework, it's the figuring out, because there's a Mandla N out there who might not be interested in your fairy tale stories, but somebody else might be. You know what I mean? So even that, it's not just cold calling every single person that says they are a producer. It's you doing the work to see. They've got a catalog. We live in the age of yeah, man, internet and instant access to information. These people readily on IMDb, on LinkedIn, show you what they have done. So you can see what are the similarities, who's closest to the thing that I want. And the likelihood of your idea being attractive to a producer like that comes from understanding. Mina nawe yazi my size when I type yam, and not just anybody. So
That's absolutely true, guys. And like again, just go into platforms like the NFVF. They always have an open circuit, and you can then decide, Uti, are you applying or what with that? So I'm gonna go to the next question. I think we've unpacked this one as much as possible. Can we emphasize that there's also a chain of command as a second AC take an intern for production? I'm not sure I understand your question there, Sunflower, storyteller. I am not sure I understand what you are asking. But if you are saying, can you take an intern for production? You obviously have to discuss it with production first, unless that intern came as at the top of the production with your team to say, in my team, and that usually is only given to the DOP as I, as a producer, will sit with the DOP and say, okay, who's on your team? I've only got space for 5 people. Who are these 5 people? And then the DOP will tell me. And if one of them is an intern there, that's how you can bring it in. But if you want an intern mid-production, that's something you have to discuss with production. And I always say, it seems like nothing, and especially when they say, oh, the person doesn't want payment, they just want an experience. That experience is costing me as a producer. You might not know it because there's an extra head on catering that I have to factor in, right? There's an extra head on medical expenses that I have to factor in, because should anything happen to lo mntwana abantu esetini, I bear the responsibility. So everything has to be run by, that's the emphasis, everything has to be run by production. You can't just, see spaza shop. It's not like you can go to Capitec while you're working at Capitec and just rock up with an intern the next day. Same thing. There's procedures and processes there. How often do you host these lives? Oh, not often enough, unfortunately. We'll try to get them more frequent. We'll try and get them more frequent. Quick cue, do production channel accept a finished product? I create my work and I have an audience. Anati. Yes, but also it goes through a process as well. You're still pitching nonetheless. It depends on whether it aligns with where they are going or what their programming is. Remember, every channel has a certain type of programming that they want to do. So even if you've shot and you're trying to sell it to them, it depends. on whether or not you are aligned with them. You still have to pitch it. So Gyafan and Jay for me. I don't know, Spay, if you have anything to say to that.
Yeah, that's the long and short.
That's the long and short of it.
Just because it's done doesn't mean it's ready to be, and is that the home? Again, positioning. You don't know, because you can pitch one idea but packaging is so important. Package it differently to different things. So for instance, we'll take, let's say, Netflix. We know it to be pretty glossy, abo Savage Beauty, abo, Blood and Water. There's a certain treatment to how the look and feel of the shows there. But that idea, pitching it to a Showmax, pitching it to an A24, pitching it to a Prime, maybe they are more grunge. So you can't just assume ukuthi ngoba seniqedile. Again, goes back to the homework. We speak about pitches a lot, like pitch, 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 pitch. But when you pitch in the whole language of baseball, pitching is throwing. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to study who is catching more
Yeah.
than you worry about the pitch.
The
And you need
theme
to be
of
intentional
today.
of who I'm pitching to. Who is my potential catcher? And how can I align myself? So, for instance, if you're going to have a story idea about a heist, simplest thing, go into Netflix, search heist films or heist shows, watch the similarity of what's okay. I'm a heist double. They aren't as dark. They've got comedic, beats here and there, this, that, the third, and then find a way of benchmarking. Even in your pitch, when you're pitching to them, you're pitching and saying that it's like number meets Money Heist, but me now, the difference I'm coming with is this, because it's something they already have, but what's going to be different from the things that we already have in our arsenal? So again, it's the homework of understanding who your catcher is before you even proceed with the process of pitching. You're the thunder, guys. God is mad.
That's so true. As just to add on that, the lesson that I've learned also was that I was just pitching and hoping everyone catches, like shooting pool, and not having a direction. There's 6 holes, one ball will go into one of the holes, and I quickly learned that that is not a smartest way of pitching. Aligning what I want with what the broadcaster is already working on makes it easier for me to be more attractive.
Yeah. Somebody asked how important, or Sunny asked, how important is insurance in the art department? Is it compulsory when it comes to damages?
Yep, it is. Primarily because a majority of the things that we use belong to other people, and sometimes they are high value items that we would borrow from other individuals. I'll make an example. Your car. If you're gonna give me your Range Rover that I'm gonna use to shoot a particular scene with, you would want to get the confidence that that vehicle is covered should something happen to it while it is in a property that is in my possession while I'm shooting a certain project with it. So we do not cancel your insurance. There is a specialized insurance that we do provide through production. So you will notice that when I rent your action vehicle, I'm gonna ask for a few questions: the value, the VIN number, all of that information, the owner, the contact details of the owner. This is just to ensure that we do protect your asset while it is in our care. So, very important question. If you are ever in a position where someone from the art department wants to take your asset and make use of it, it is very important that you establish that it is covered. So, yeah, because things happen.
Yeah, just to also elaborate on that, no production can even start to shoot. You can't even point a camera without insurance. And forget pointing a camera, you can't hire any equipment without insurance, because the first thing the service provider is going to ask you is for the letter of insurance to show that their goods are covered with you. So insurance is a very big factor of our production. It even exists in the budget. Like there's no budget without insurance and contingency. Sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. Mangondo, I think, says, I'm studying it after for directing and writing. How do we, young creatives, can I find a job out there? Yo, we've circled around this one for so much, Mangondo. Basically, just to summarize, we had said that to find a job is about who you know, the proximity of yourself to what you want to do. And let's talk about after, actually. I have a few qualms.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yeah,
Yeah,
go.
let's drop the shoe.
Yo,
We're going to discuss after,
are
guys.
we ready? Are you sure?
I just need people to know. Cancel me, block me, do whatever. But like, I need after students to know. Guys, please. Like I said earlier on to Tia, that yes, you are majoring in something at after. In the reality of the industry, you are not that thing.
Chifu.
If you are if you are majoring as a director, Scat, in the industry, you are not a director. Please don't ever send me an email or anybody for that matter in the industry, any producer, and say, I am a director graduating from after. Please, Nganza, wait. Don't ever do that, because the amount of experience you do not have to claim that title just from the after projects that you're doing. Yes, and I understand it's great, right? There's a lot of practical experience from after, but it is worlds apart from what you really truly experience in the industry. So keep an open mind. I was saying it's much easier to enter into the industry by coming in as an intern to production, and when you're in, then decide which and ask the production team, okay, I feel like I am more comfortable with this department. Can I go intern there? Just bear in mind that you are always going to be an intern first, and you're going to have to work for years, just like everybody else, to get into that position. Am I saying there are no exceptions? Absolutely not. There's always an exception. But the standard way is that you're going to get in there as an intern, and you're going to have to work your hardest to move up rank like everybody else. The thing is, nobody at Channel knows you. Nobody at Netflix knows you. Nobody at NAVF, nobody knows you. So you can't claim yet that the title to say, I am this. You have to work your way up. So all this to say, try to find an internship where you can enter in through production and then decide which space you're going to be in, because you'll find that you're measuring in something at after because it's what looks nice in a student setting. But when you get into the actual industry, you realize that, oh no, actually, I don't want to be a script writer because it means 1, 2, 3. That's real life experience. So zinganza kwethu zase after, please be careful because most of you guys don't get a job based on how you position yourself when you're sending these emails. Truth God, nothing.
Like
How you
I'm
send the
sorry,
emails.
I don't even like the buzzword, the trigger word or the trigger term is after. The moment you go after, I'm like, yo, yeah, let's hear it. And then what happened?
Yeah.
But the fact is, while you are there already, again, visibility is everything. So the whole internship route is one. The other is you are there amongst peers that are like-minded and are as passionate. Even as early as your first year, you guys could be shooting shorts here and there, putting them in
YouTube.
festivals and or YouTube, or to build a portfolio so that when you do come out at the end of that degree experience, you can say, yeah, after, but also I did the 48-hour film challenge. My short was screened at DIF, Nasefe Sparko,
Yep.
Nagukup. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Let's see it. Here's a link to the thing that we did. You are showing, not telling. You must show, not tell, right? So even in La Ukona, in that capacity, I didn't go to AFTA, just putting it out there. But I think you guys have access to equipment and things like that. Use that. Use the equipment, use those connections where you're able to take that camera away over the weekend and you guys shoot your quick 5 minutes that qualify. Do you know that there are festivals that run for 1 minute long short films? There's over 20, 30 of them around the world for a 1 minute short film. And if you enter them there and you get selected here, there, you've got your tags, it says something. So don't wait until the 3 years or the 4 years is up to then say, now I want to jump into the industry. What are you actively doing whilst you're there to build that momentum and to build your portfolio enough for me to look in that sea of those emails that I say after? You will stand out because I'm like, okay, this is different. So visibility again, yeah.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask both of you was what what do you feel like needs to change the most about our industry? Like what are we doing wrong? So and how can we change that? What are the things that are really like absolutely grinding your teeth about the industry, and how do you feel we can change them?
Um, Based on my short experience, limited, what I have seen, and I'm going to compare this to my corporate experience, is that within our industry, I find that the industry is not dedicated enough into taking care of its own people, the creatives. So much so that in comparison to corporate, there are laws in place that ensure that the employees are well looked after, well taken care of, even after exiting, the corporate workspace. So more needs to be more effort needs to be invested in taking care of the creatives. As a person, Konamaj, I would like to be a part of an ecosystem that I know that will take care of its own and it will grow. So that's in eliminating that anxiety that being a freelancer or a creative comes along with. And I'm not putting this purely based on corporate or legislatives. It is up to us as creatives to come up with ways where we protect ourselves, because the big bosses and the channels, they have no incentive to want to protect the employees up until the employees find ways. I mean, such spaces where we are able to discuss and learn, because it's easy to want things before we even invest ourselves in learning how it works. Such platforms allow us for us to learn and understand how we can better our working environment, because it is a collective an environment that should serve us as creatives. So the onus is upon us to find these ways, protect our interests, and not work in silos, because everyone is out there to sort themselves out, to get their own check. Come together as a collective unit, and when we stand for anything, and we all agree to say these are the conditions that we want to work under, and the whole unit agrees to that. I know it's very hard. I mean, it's hard getting black people to stand alone. But if we're to do that as an industry, that's when you'll start seeing changes that would not only benefit current players in the industry, but designing an ecosystem that will work even in the future. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Faye?
No, man, 100%. I'm listening to what Cloney's saying, and I endorse it 1,000.
Yeah.
It's that, and it's also just, I guess, the powers that be understanding which this industry does contribute towards the national GDP enough to be taken seriously. Like,
Yes.
please, let's start there. Like, it is a freestanding industry that has been churning out religiously and pouring into our country's economy. So treat it as such. And until that can be done, because that's when you introduce things like regulation and setting conditions. The protection that you surely speak of comes from that. It has to start from the top. Tina Singakuluma, we can form our little things. I mean, when was it? I think about 2013, 14, the sound department in Cape Town was very clear that it didn't matter which agency you belong to, they amongst themselves decide, this is the lowest rate we're taking, this is the highest. Anything below, you can't call the next one because sisonke. And it was so endearing, but manj, 10, 11 years later, you can't sustain that because at the end of the day, mina if I say I am worth R5 and ulindi athi mina noma yini impoza yami because ibond yashaya end of the month. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So it's about the support needs to be structured, it needs to be officialized at national level. Before that, we can do a whole song and dance about this, and we will still be having this conversation 30 years from now.
That's true. I reposted a video not so long ago from, I think, a show that it was similar to Take Five, and I think this was probably somewhere in the late 90s and in early 2000s, where it had all our big names right now, and they were just still discussing things that we are discussing here today. And that's only because the government does not take this industry seriously unless for the news sector, because that's how they channel out information. But every other part of this industry, even the people who do news, don't have regulators themselves. So I agree with you. Until such time that the government like takes it seriously, it'll always be in limbo. And you're right. If I haven't had a salary for 5 months and somebody is offering me 10 rands, I'll take it because I'm thinking about my family and I'm thinking about the things that I want to do within my household. And screw the fact that everyone else is saying we are not taking anything less than 15 rands. Yeah, so that's how they keep winning against the crew in terms of rates, because it's every man for himself, and that's what we need to change about the industry. There's some questions here. And Jabs is saying, what crucial info should be included in a pitch deck when pitching to investors? And Jabs, like I said, there's a book that I wrote that goes in depth into pitching, your story, and how to pitch and everything. The link is in my bio. You really can go into that, because if we were to sit here, it took probably 5 pages of that book to go in depth about pitching and how to set up your pitch deck and everything. So that will be a very helpful resource for you there. Sorry, I'm just going through the questions, guys. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss anyone. After Jobs, there was a DJ who says, so there is some intern programs that require some diploma in media studies. I'm not sure if that's a question. Um, Georgina says, "Good evening, Lynn, Sloni, and Spey." Hi, Georgina. That's what Saga is fighting for, Biggie. Do you know anything about Saga, Spey?
I'm gonna set that one out. No.
Okay.
Google it.
That's the thing, right, about the industry, Biggie, is that we all have, there's like the PMA for actors, there's like Saga, there's Producers Guild and whatever. But all these sub platforms don't come together and band together and agree. The actors are out there doing their own thing. The producers are out there doing their own thing. The Writers Guild is out there doing its own thing. Nobody is agreeing on like regulatory things for the entire industry, like a structure. That is what we don't have. And everyone is still looking out for themselves, even within these sub organizations or whatever you want, NGOs or whatever you want to call them. No one is going to channel and saying, I even applaud the PMA because they at least got a standard contract for their actors out of both channels, SABC and Mnet. They at least achieved that. With the Sagas, I've been in the industry for long. Saga, the Producers Guild, I don't know, maybe it's because I've never joined, but I haven't seen any significant movement from them that changes or shifts anything in any way in the industry. I say the controversial things. Spey has to sit them out because she's in some of the spaces. But I
No,
will,
not at all. You're 100%. No, bruh. Listen, we're here now. Like,
yeah.
hands off. It doesn't help to uthi umuntu ahlala khona information while ingane ilimala, right? And we can't take for granted that we've earned our stripes and now we're here and we're able to pebeza the bullets that come, right?
Yeah.
There's somebody literally on day one of this journey, and you being here and talking and us having these, this discourse is food for that mission. So it's no holds barred. It's important to say things the way that they are. I mean, I used to look at, and there'll always be a reference to the American industry where you get the Producers Guild of America, the Directors Guild of America, the writers, whatnot. They went on a strike even, and Lapaya Dog. This is it, Michael Jackson. Like every single year, we are going back to the drawing board and we're saying nothing beyond here. You can go above, it's great. If you're Christopher Nolan, if you're what Wes Anderson, you can have 7 trillion. Mar, you can't give this person with this title anything lower than. So again, the unions do the thing. Like I envy them. I'm not gonna lie. I envy them because namhlanje you're getting 10 rand. 3 months from now, utati 1 rand.
Yes.
And then when you go back for a 10 rand job, they're like, no, but it's into
Uthathe 1 rand.
31 rand. So what do you mean you're worth 10 rand? No, don't do that. And so that thing hurts you without realizing, but Nomayin Posayam is where we're at.
Yeah.
So it's such it's abusive actually, man.
Yeah. So for all those with rose-colored glasses, this is us taking it off from the industry.
Kill them, crush them.
You're entering into a space that's not regulated. You're entering into a space where exploitation is key, number one, and you're entering into a space, and we're not trying to be Debbie Downers or negative. We're just painting a realistic thing so that you enter and you are not bitter thereafter. You know exactly what space, and you are entering a space where you are fighting for your life with every project, because also being blacklisted is such an easy thing. I don't know how many times in this live alone I have said, I hope this doesn't get me blacklisted, because I am about to speak about something that isn't smiled upon, you know. So it's that kind of industry. It's very stressful, and the hours are not also great, but it's all not like it's not all gloom. Obviously, we produce beautiful things, work that we are very proud of, and we go to the red carpet events and we standing there shining, and we're proud of when things get on Netflix and they are number one worldwide, you know, like there's national pride in that as well, you know. So it's not all bad, but we're just saying, just know and have a realistic expectation of the space you are coming into. Sunny says the issue is the recycling of EPs and CEs, executive producers and commissioning editors, rather than educating and development. I am not sure what Sunny is saying there. And I'm not sure what you were responding to, Sunny. So we'll circle back. Okay. Georgina says, I also think that it lies with the individual on the ground, as desperate times force one to accept. Yes, that's basically what we've been saying. That desperate time force you to accept conditions that you can't stand with the group when your family is going hungry. That's the sad part. Even the match that happened in DTIC, it felt like it made no impact. I know not of the match. I don't know if any of you know anything about the match, but like, point in case, like,
Exactly.
these things
Yeah.
happen.
I think it happened like 2-3 weeks ago. I saw it on people's like WhatsApp statuses and stuff, and like I'll admit I wasn't, you know, really clued up or even cared to really follow much.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
And
these things are not shared like broadly. It usually is a select group. Like we also have like different WhatsApp groups, and one is part of this group, one is a part of another group. Each group is doing their own thing. There's no collectiveness. That's the problem. We don't have a collective mindset.
And it's so unfortunate because you can even Google it. South Africa has arguably one of the most skilled crew members in the world. And proof of that is why these internationals keep coming here. And it's cheap labor, right? Because if I can shoot it for $10 million versus the $100 million I would have had to spend in America, then boom, let's do it. And we have the skill set. It's unbelievable. I would stand there and watch grips rigging stuff and going cameras going upside down, and I'm like mudimu, you know. But it doesn't reflect on people's bank accounts. It doesn't reflect on the support and their protection. You have people in their 60s and their 70s still coming to set to work because aguna retirement plan, aguna, it's hand to mouth. It is the most excruciatingly painful thing to witness and realize which this industry, like, kushuthi uzosebenza uzufe basically, because yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to
Are you still there, Linz?
do you still have the same
You
enthusiasm?
lost me for a second there.
Did you lose me?
Yes.
Yeah, you were going to and then you went.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, I'm going to ask one last question so we can close the live. We've been here since 8:30. Um, but the question I want us to close with is, I guess for the both of you, if you guys can answer, is do you still love it?
Oh
Do you
God, yes.
still love the industry
Oh
like
yeah.
you did before you knew certain things? Are you still as enthusiastic about here?
Oh no, I'm married to story, guys. Like
Mm,
there's such beauty in it's magical seeing something on paper and then seeing it come to life. There's nothing like it. Um, just immeasurable satisfaction that comes from that. There are beautiful stories, and it's not just the stories, it's the people behind, the relationships that are formed, the support there on the ground is something else. Because you need to understand, these people become your family. You see them more than you do your own, close circles. You're on set for 12, 14 hours, including travel, 6 days a week at times. So they essentially become that. I don't see myself doing anything
anything
else.
else?
Oh, Hashem. I'm here. Ngizofanayo.
Same. And
Yeah.
um, comparing it to corporate, because from corporate, I think I'm in the right space, and I think the greatest passion stems from constantly learning. It's one industry where things are constantly evolving, things are constantly changing. So if you're
Mm,
someone that enjoys getting new challenges, this works. This industry is for you. There are both negatives and positives everywhere. We cannot run away from that. However, the passion is still there. I absolutely love it. I think one of the things that I've said is that we've all heard is saying Uti, there's nothing new under the sun. Every
mm,
story has been told, but they haven't told it like Shoni would tell it. They haven't told it like you would tell it. So that keeps the motivation in enjoying what I do, ups and downs.
Yeah, and also there's no ceiling here. Like it's a
mm,
bottom, like there's no ceiling, right?
mm,
Just like what you said now about the no new ideas under the sun. Yes, they aren't, but if I marry this to that, then there's something new that happens. There's
mm,
a supernova that takes place there. um and the avenues are endless as well. Yes, we speak about the harshness of the industry and the stuff that we are disgruntled by, and that's fair because we live it, we've experienced it, the insecurity of the industry as a whole. But there's also other things, opportunities to learn what the business of filmmaking is, because in essence this is a business. When you put out a film or a show, you are selling a product. Your job is to note how many territories can this product reach, what are my returns, what are my risks. So it's a business. When we say creative, it shouldn't be we are switching off Leo light that says Uti, this isn't work, it's work. Yes, it's creative, and I'm fortunate and I'm grateful that I get to do something that I love. But at the end of the day, it's business really. So there's
mm,
also a challenge to learn those things. You go to other spaces, you go to these labs internationally, and you sit there and they talk. Fethu, bakhuluma ngemali 7 trillion like it's nothing, and you're like, wait a minute, how are you guys comfortable having these chats? So there's clearly something I don't know.
mm.
You build curiosity, you can further yourself, and you can understand more, bring it back, incorporate it into your own process. So yeah, man, it's yeah, it's hard, but it's also rewarding.
Yeah. Okay, thank you guys. I think we will have another live. I will let you guys know when that live will take place. I think we'll announce it. Um, I really, there's more questions coming in, but we really have to cut it here. We'll pick it up on another live. I'll check in with Shoni and Spay. Sorry we hijacked you. um, we'll just check in when next they will be available to do this live. Thank you guys so
Oh
much
no, no
for
way.
joining. for
Thank you,
joining.
guys. Thank you, Lindy.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Femi.
Thank you for joining this live, guys. And remember, we're just going to quickly plug ourselves. I have a YouTube channel and I have a book on budgeting and pitching in the business of film. It's the link is in the bio. The sales go live on Wednesday. So you can click on that bio on my bio, the link on my bio, and buy it on Wednesday. Shoni?
Art director, props master, set dresser. I have, since I've been getting so much time on my hands, I am exploring new territories. I have found an interest in trying to create a visual aesthetic for music videos. So if anyone out there is doing a music video, even if it's just, you are releasing a song, I'd be very happy to jump in, dress the set for you. If you're doing a podcast, you want your podcast to be specific to the topics that you're talking about, I've got the skills to make that look fabulous. I'm still building that portfolio. I'm plugging myself. I'll do it as an intern as well to make your podcast look good while I develop my portfolio. So that's what I'm currently doing.
Anything you're
Okay,
working on?
so digital script supervisor, development executive, and creative producer. So the last two of those three hats are fairly recent. So I'm in a season where I am still trying to figure out how to juggle all three. But again, it's about helping to create compelling stories, not just compelling stories, but stories that can sell. And I'm also fairly still a student at it, and it's something that I am putting most of my energy these days on. Yeah, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Until the next live. Later.